mainly because it's, I want to go in depth, but I also can't go too much in depth. So if things are unclear, feel free to pick your hand. So a little bit in the shadow. So a little bit about myself, I suppose. I think I've always been quite interested in exponential technologies, in particular technologies that could somehow change and reshape society. So when I was very young, I built my own model aircraft from the ground up, and I was one of the first people to do VR. This is my friend over here. And at some point, I also built my first company. It was just me, so it wasn't very big or anything, but it was an algae biofuel company. And through it, I hope to fundamentally tackle one of the biggest challenges in the world, which I hope everyone agrees is climate change. And at some point, I kind of realized that I think there are probably more deep-rooted problems in the world that we should tackle. That if we solve, we probably have a much bigger impact on society altogether. And I always felt that no one really was challenging the status quo, the way our society itself works, up until I discovered Bitcoin. So Bitcoin was pretty amazing, because it was the first time I had this feeling that there was this new technology that really was targeting the fundamental structure of society itself. So as far as I could tell, when I was that age, money underpins how, money and the control of money underpins how society works, right? It drives us. Literally, we spend all our days working. Why? Because of money, right? And because we love our work, of course. But it's a very powerful part of society. And if we were somehow to be able to change the nature of it, because right now we all get our salaries paid into this massive institution called a bank, right? And it's a bit of a no-brainer. This is done across the whole world, but this probably leads to all kind of weird power dynamics. So we can change that. But I'm skipping ahead. So yes, Bitcoin was amazing because it showed us that you could, for the first time, have complete sovereignty of your own assets. It showed us that rather than trusting a government or a bank, you could literally just trust the code and nothing else. It showed that you could actually understand a new financial system like this in the span of a week. It took me probably a week or so to really get my head around Bitcoin on even the most technical levels. And even my younger brother understood it in a few days, which would take us to understand like the financial world of old, right? It would take us, maybe even a lifetime to some degree. So that was quite amazing. And fundamentally, what Bitcoin showed us is that we could do peer-to-peer transactions with no intermediaries. And I really took that to heart. So I was one of the crazy people who tried to live Bitcoin, right? I traveled around the world without a bank account. And with around the world, I mean like towards the east in particular, because there's more Bitcoin stuff over there. And yeah, there were, in the Bitcoin space, however, there were issues, right? So, of course, over here, there was massive scaling debates, regrettably, and there were copious amounts of hacks. Someone in this room is very familiar with this, I've already heard. Over here, one of my friends, Leo Treasure, he's Australian, he hit headlines because his laptop got hacked, and he lost 750 Bitcoin overnight because of remote desktop software. As you can see, he's calling for multi-sig solutions, which I'll tell more about in a minute. And fundamentally, I was here because of this, right? So I was trying to actually live, the dream that all the Bitcoiners were dreaming about back then, which is that you could actually have your own bank in your pocket and nothing else. But there were, this never quite caught on. The network effects of like Bitcoin being accepted everywhere never really took off. And so, thankfully, however, most of these challenges were about to be solved, and because Ethereum came out essentially. Ethereum didn't just incrementally improve on Bitcoin. it added an entirely new technology into the mix. So Ethereum, of course, added the idea of a virtual machine onto the idea of blockchain. And this now, suddenly we went from just being able to do peer-to-peer transactions, which is definitely very cool. Suddenly we were able to put entire financial applications on top of this network. With Bitcoin, Bitcoin was its own product. Bitcoin was the product. The Ethereum isn't the product. Ethereum is the platform on top of which you can build products. And so the moment I read about Ethereum in 2014, it was like immediately I knew like this is it. This is where the space is going. It like suddenly expanded the horizon of what we could do with blockchain for the first time to be almost limitless. And so in the months after Ethereum went live in 2015, we started to see the first applications be developed or be announced to be built on Ethereum. So two of these, of course, everyone, I presume, most people know Maker. A bit less popular, but still just as impressive and amazing is Digix over here. And so these are two platforms that, for the first time in history, with teams as small as our own, or I guess at the time there were just 3-4 people, we're starting to develop and announce platforms and projects that were doing stuff that financial institutions that were orders of magnitude bigger and older had not been able to achieve. And they were just doing this with a bunch of guys like us. And so this is quite amazing, because it was clear to us, to myself and David, that for the first time we were starting to witness the birth of an entirely new economic paradigm. Something that was like completely separate from everything that existed before it. And so our idea was essentially that this is all fantastic, and it works for technologists like everyone in this room, I think. But how can we make this work for the people out there? How can we actually make this viable as a lifestyle? And so that is where the token card essentially started. And so we're essentially, because of this, because of Ethereum, and because of the Ethereum ecosystem that was being built on top of it, we for the first time had an opportunity to thoroughly reimagine what banking could mean. Like completely reimagine from the bottom up, right? Unlike top downs, like challenger banks, and I love challenger banks, if anyone works for a challenger bank, they're amazing, but they're only really incrementally improving on what banking is today. They're the same model. They've learned a lot from the UI revolution that we're experiencing, but they're not fundamentally changing the nature of money. And so, like, they're not fundamentally doing enough challenging. So, and that is exactly what we think the Ethereum economy is doing. It is going to completely challenge the world economy at large. And we are trying to build the first experience, the first consumer banking experience. And David doesn't like when I say experience because it's the real deal. It's not just an illusion. It's actually it's a platform. So the first consumer banking platform for Ethereum that is trying to allow anyone to literally say goodbye to the old world, right? And start to build your life on this new paradigm. So a few things, I guess, that are of note, if everyone can read. So indeed, one of the key differences for a user is going to be that you can quite literally at some point hold every asset that might exist, right? So now we're only just starting, we're only just seeing stuff like gold and dollar, like decentralized dollar tokens appear on the network, but quite soon we'll start to see anything from stocks to bonds to other digital assets, like from games to all the way through to at some point you could buy a piece of the Mona Lisa, right? You could buy like 1% of the Mona Lisa and hold some of your value in 19th century art. At some point you'll be able to hold, in the future, if you buy an iPhone, instead of getting some crappy receipts that you get now, and even they email them, which is already quite ahead of the curve, you'll just get a token, a non-fungible token, which represents that iPhone, right? And that's how you manage it. That's like your digital ownership. If you go to Sainsbury's in the future, rather than just getting a receipt, you'll get a token sent to your wallet, which when you click on it will show every item you purchased that day, and you'll be able to click through to that to see the provenance of everything that has to do with that particular product. Right? You'll literally be able to see that, oh, this piece of steak had, used this much carbon credits essentially to be produced, this much water, had these injections, came from this part of the world. The entire provenance of an asset can be represented in a token in your wallet. In the future, if you buy a Tesla car, you won't get a key. You'll get a token which represents not just ownership of the key itself. You could lend it out. You could create like a ghost copy and lend it out for a day, and have someone have it automatically disappear after the person has used it. You could access to your house for your cleaner could only give access to a certain day or between a certain time. In the future, you'll be able to have in your wallet anything from your own identity represented to your subscriptions, your Netflix, to your insurances, etc. And so that's one thing, right? I guess in a way I'm going to just skip ahead. In a way, what this kind of leads to is we start to create an experience which is looking a lot less like Monzo, even though right now our experience is Monzo plus crypto kind of vibe. And it's going to start to look a hell of a lot more like how we live our gaming lives. So this is Skyrim, right? In Skyrim, you click I on your keyboard or start on your PlayStation controller, and you open your inventory, and you have everything from your swords to your cabbages, to your potions, right? And as well as your gold, right? And so that's literally what our lives in the future are going to be like. But that's really only possible to this degree on Ethereum. And it's for the first time going to give people incredible amounts of control. Because, coming back to this, because it's non-custodial, right? So right now, when you buy, forget money, the banks are doing all kinds of stuff with your money, right? You don't agree with. They're making profits off it. Forget money. If you buy a piece of music from Apple Music, you don't really own that music, right? As long as Apple is live, you'll be able to stream it. But in contrast with when you purchased a CD back in the day, you don't really own that music. But in the future, with this new technology, you will actually own this song. Right? You'll be issued a token which you can hold in your own wallet, which you can withdraw from Apple Music, and you can then stream over Spotify. It's a digital ownership. And so, yeah, what's more, for our banking experience, we'll be able to tap into the entire Ethereum ecosystem. So rather than us having to build everything ourselves, we can leverage the very best. So obviously there's going to be an easy example of 10 lending platforms built in Ethereum, of which maybe one in particular is amazing and does so much better than any other bank could ever do in the world. And we can just plug it in. We don't have to build it ourselves. We can literally just pick. There's this. It's going to be this evolutionary survival of the fittest going on in all these industries, and we can literally just hook it all up and provide the user with a banking experience, which even if you're just intending to hold pounds, right, hypothetically, like with your Monzo, you'll definitely at some point be provided with better services on the most basic level because of the nature of the industry. It's synergetic. And so another thing for us is that we don't hold customer funds, and so we're not nearly as scary to the regulator as, say, a new bank is, or an e-money institute, or an exchange that takes deposits of customers' funds, because they get hacked all the time. They might play with your money. They might not hold. They might operate on fractional reserve. We literally can't do that. That's why the FCA, we're in the FCA sandbox, was so incredibly excited about us, because they realized that consumer protection goes up significantly if the world moves towards this kind of model. So that's another good thing. Then it's just 28 minutes, but this has been on for a while. So yeah, there's better transparency as well. This is an AML point, so anti-money laundering point. So right now, Revolut, for example, can only see, if money's coming in, it can only see the last jump from the bank that you sent it from. It can't see anything that preceded that. And so AML is possible in the current world, but it's quite difficult. You can only see the last data points. Whereas on the blockchain, you can like literally trace back to its origin itself. And this is important for the regulator because it means that even though now our space is still unfortunately tainted a bit, right? At some point as time goes on, there is no question that AML on the blockchain will be better than it could ever be in the old one. And so yeah, even like, and this is, you know, if you're like buying weed or something, all right, but you know, ultimately this is great because it just means that the dodgy shadiness that our world currently literally operates on, right? The amount of money that gets moved around. I heard all kinds of crazy stories from the SFO. You know, it will be amazing if we can start to bring into the picture what's, you know, how money really works and moves across the world between our societies. Anyway, so yes. So what have we built? What does this all really mean? I think what we've built is everything you need to start living a life on something good. And I think that's really cool because, and this is without compromise, right? You're not like me back in the day giving up the ability to use an ATM or something, right? Living off of Bitcoin. No, you'll be able to, you know, switch this out with whatever HSBC app or what have you use right now, pending a few additional things that we're building. So direct debit and, you know, standing orders. We don't have that yet, but that'll come really soon. So, you know, this is like super alpha, of course. So, yes, in a way, we're trying to build an uncompromised banking experience on Ethereum. So everything else that exists in the industry today, to have utility, to have, you know, to spend stuff in the real world or this or that, you know, or exchange stuff. The exception of DEX is you're compromising, which you're giving away your crypto to this organization. And we've built the first system where you're not doing that, which is so important. And so, yes, I hope everyone will. This is not the end. I know this sounds like the end, but I hope everyone will start to say goodbye. It will allow you to start to say goodbye to the old financial world, literally withdrawing your money for one last time from the old world, and start to become a part of the new paradigm. You guys will literally be able to become a citizen of Ethereum for the first time ever. And hopefully, this, you know, where this kind of leads to is, you know, as time goes on, as we start to inch towards the singularity, tinfoil hat, we really will need to go through a transformation on a very fundamental societal level, right? There's no question the way the world works right now will not get us to the singularity. We have to change society itself, and I think that is what Ethereum is promising. That's why this is so important. So, yes, let's see. Whoops, sorry. So this is what we have today. Misha's going to talk a lot more about this, so I'm going to keep this very short. But fundamentally, we've built an experience which is quite similar to, on an initial level, to the best apps you experience in the industry today, such as Cypher Browser and Coinbase Wallet, where you retain control of your own funds. However, with our experience, because of the card, you can use it in the real world, right? Which is something none of them offer right now. And like Gnosis Safe, right? Which they're doing amazing work as well. We have a user deploy a smart contract wallet, right? And this is completely the state of the art because up until now, users have always held funds on a key, right? And this is inherently a bit flawed because the moment you know, the moment your laptop is compromised, or you know, the moment you lose your key, all your money is gone, and there's no recourse. It's like you're sitting on top of a hill, and you know, at any moment you could start rolling, and it's like the end of story. And so we've actually used Ethereum itself, smart contracts themselves, enhance your security to programmatically decide how your money is going to be managed. And that's through these two functions: the daily limits and whitelisted address. And I'm going to keep that. So yeah, a bit more about that. our wallet is a third generation wallet, where the first generation was keys, and this is a paper wallet. I'm sure some people here use paper wallets in the past. This is a second generation wallet, a ledger wallet, which is out of necessity because this stuff was always so scary. You don't want to keep a key on your laptop or something because stuff does go wrong. Even happens to the best of us, as you saw with Leo. This is great, but it's definitely not the answer. If our future of money vision requires everyone in the world to walk around with this thing dangling around their neck, it's not happening, right? It's a great interim solution. Not to mention the fact that you still can't quite trust this. Instead, where we're going is that you'll be able to deploy your own digital bank essentially on the Ethereum network. So all our users, when they get the app, they deploy their own smart contract wallets onto the Ethereum network. And in this, this is like about 2,000 lines of code. We added some more recently, more functions. Your funds will be governed in a way that only you control. There are functions that you can set up, you can call once right now, that determine how your funds are released and managed. And so that's very cool. Now, yes, this is now put on your tinfoil hats. So, what we've tried to create with TKN, one of the things that always struck me when I was young was the idea that we're all working for money, right? I was always seeing my parents. It would just strike me as such a weird concept that this massive institution called central bank and all their bank friends were like issuing the stuff that people would like work their whole lives for, but also they would have the ability to devalue that at any point in time, however they wanted. And so I always found that quite strange. So if you look here, these are two charts. The time scales are very different either, but they illustrate the points. This is logarithmic scale. So this is the value of the pound of the last few hundred years, actually, but it's going down. And this is very weird because if you were to think about, if you work in a company and you're getting share options in a company, if everyone works hard, the value of your shares goes up, right? Why doesn't this apply on a national level? Why isn't it so that if we, why isn't there a correlation between our national currency and the success, the economic success of this country, this big project we're all working on? And yeah, why doesn't it look a lot more like the FTSE 100, for example? Wouldn't it be more amazing as the de facto currency that most people that aren't financially illiterate hold, right? Why doesn't our currency look a lot more like this? And so fundamentally, this is what we've done with TKN, where we've built a token which, as time goes on, starts to become directly correlated. It's not Ethereum, but to the Ethereum economy at large, right? Because the way it works, and I haven't put this in my slides, but every time someone uses the card, right, every time they top up, or in the future, spend as you go, so they will remit a tiny percentage as a licensing fee to this asset contract, and TKN is directly backed by this. And so that means that as time goes on, this contract becomes filled with all the different assets being used in the Ethereum economy, proportional to what people are using, right? So if people are topping up a lot with gold tokens, then that will naturally become a larger proportion. And so TKN is a proxy for the success of the Ethereum economy itself. And so it starts to become essentially like a currency that is hard backed by the economy it's supposed to represent, which I think is a cooler currency altogether. Now, yes, in a way, what I'm saying, well, the other thing that's going on is that the pound itself, fiat currencies, will become completely disintermediated altogether over the coming 5-10 years, because the main use for them, the reason they exist altogether, is that you can, that we can exchange goods, right? That we have a common currency, but what's going on in our industry right now through TokenCard, in fact, is that you can hold any asset. You don't have to hold pounds anymore. You can hold gold. You can hold Mona Lisa. and so and the person you're paying to can still receive whatever they want. And so the need for fiat currency as a medium of exchange starts to dissolve in and of itself. And so that's an interesting thing. Yes. Then I think where this all kind of leads to, hopefully, is that we will start to change our society on a very fundamental level. A society that will actually take us into the eons to come, that we can like believe in and not think that we're screwing up the world. A society where people actually feel in control of the world around them, rather than, you know, the most controlled people feel today is that they vote once every few years. That's not what I call democracy, even though we're like hives on the democracy index. It's an index of shit. So I think a world where, you know, the value that people create, you know, we all work, we all earn money, and a world where your value can be put into assets that you actually believe in, rather than be put into stuff, you know, that these massive institutions called banks put them in. I think that's the world, you know, we should see. That'll definitely make the world a better place. One that transcends corruption, economic slavery, and you know, transcends the, you know, puts society under control of those who seek to control it. So yes, I'll leave you with one last quote. So this is from 2015 by Tom Goodwin from TechCrunch. So Uber, the world's largest taxi company, owns no vehicles. Facebook, the world's most important media owner, creates no content. Alibaba, the most valuable retailer, has no inventory. And Airbnb, the world's largest accommodation provider, owns no real estate. Something interesting is happening. Now, this is definitely not a good analogy for what we're doing, for reasons, and that's because this is Web 2.0. You know, we're living through the golden age of the current state of the web. However, you know, maybe 5 years, maybe 10 years from today, we will be living through a new renaissance of decentralization. And perhaps, you know, so I'll leave you with this thought, that one day, not so far from now, the biggest bank will hold no customer deposits. And so, let's see if we get there. Thank you. Any questions?
Okay, let me start. I like the idea of being able to own any form of you know, assets, digitalized, tokenized that I want.
Yeah.
But the thing is, with that comes, you know, the paradox of choice. Essentially,
yeah.
5 years in TokenCard, I open the app, I have money, and you offer me 10,000 different tokens. And you know, part of why people go to banks right now is because I go to bank, and we have in France this Livret A, where I give them some money. I don't know what they do with it, but I know I will get 1%. You know, no choice. I know what I get. It's easy for me.
Yeah.
You plan to have this kind of, you know, I don't know, it could be like a package of the top 5 coins used on the platform, something like some form of curation, okay? That's for the user that is not, doesn't want to navigate this jungle.
I think that's very important, because we already live in this industry today where there's just so much stuff out there that unless you like commit your entire life to studying it, you're going to make mistakes. And so, first of all, we're trying to build a platform where I can consciously give it to my grandma and know that she's not going to do some, you know, put all her money in something, you know, that was like a big marketing campaign, whatever, right? So we are from the outset trying to create a safe platform, and I would probably say that, you know, as the industry develops, one of the nice ideas is that we could have like baskets, right? Where if you care about this topic, say climate change, that you could, you know, that TokenCard, the company, would like give you, you know, this selection of what other people are using, and it's all like vetted and this kind of stuff. Yeah, that's right.
Do you see TokenCard more as curation too? So, you know, so again, with the jungle of 5,000 tokens, you can do basket. But you could also do like, you tag this one as an eco-friendly project, as an open project, as a decentralized project. Yeah. Are you gonna like help people just navigate this?
Yeah, I think we definitely should help people. I think that'll become a whole function within the company, that we have a team of people who are thoroughly reviewing each project in depth, and indeed presenting it to the world in a way that people will, you know, people need to look at our platform as an authority on, you know, everything there is trustworthy and understandable. And yeah, that's definitely a big piece. Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. Good presentation. Thanks. So you said something about spending will release assets.
Yeah, TKN.
Within TKN, can you explain that a little bit more?
Yes. So we have a token, and our token is so the way our system works right now is the moment you top up your TokenCard Visa debit card, you're sending to the TokenCard backend, right? You're sending an amount of any token from your own control. So from the wallet, from your smart contract wallet, you're sending some Ether or Digix Gold or Make a Die. And the contract, and this is the code that has just been added in the last few days, weeks. The code will also, if it knows that you're topping up your token card, it will automatically add a licensing fee, which is right now an additional 1%, to be sent to some other address, which is the TKN asset contracts. And forget the name. Let's just have it. So, and these assets get collected over time by, you know, all the people using token cards, and this will be in the assets topped up itself, right? So if it's gold, it's, you know, gold is going in here, and so that means that over time the TKN will start to become backed by this, you know, this pie chart of different assets, and you can essentially burn at some point in time. You can burn your TKN to redeem that, and so that's how it's like. The mechanism is directly backed by the assets held inside that. Does that answer your question?
I comprehend it. Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
When you redeem against one of the assets in the basket or all of them?
No, it's a pro rata share. So if you have,
so you could end up swapping one TKN for like 28,000 different tokens.
That's right.
Goody. Okay.
Now I would say cautiously that there is a lot of interesting possibilities going down this route, and that yeah, we may or may not experiment to see what's cooler, what achieves more value, etc. Yeah,
it's quite possible a lot of them will be dust.
Exactly. And so that's why there are routes we could go down. Yeah.
I guess one thing worth noting, because we end up exchanging it for fiat, we're only ever going to, as a business, be doing that simple exchange on high liquidity tokens.
Yeah.
We don't want dust.
There wouldn't be dust at the time.
So the things which we allow you to spend, because.
But even if it's a high liquidity token, the point is, if I redeem a certain number of TKNs, then depending on the values in the pie chart in terms of percentage distribution, I can still end up getting a very small amount of a certain token.
Yeah.
Even though the token is worth something, I get such a small amount that it's, to me, dust.
Sure. Yeah, that's always possible.
I mean, they'll, if we start to literally allow top up in every token, there'll probably be a very long tail. Yeah.
So one of the big appeals of early crypto was the lack of traceability and certainly the cash as well.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as you start adding in KYC to that process, arguably going down a more dystopian route, if you like.
Yeah.
So are you kind of averse to going down the route like ZK Snarks, or are you on the basis of regulation, or are you?
Great question. So
Can you say what ZK Snarks?
So ZK Snarks, zero knowledge proofs, essentially ring signatures. That means that the network becomes a black box where everything still operates, where you still can send transactions peer to peer and know that there's no cheating going on anywhere, but no one can see from the outside what's actually going on. This is like anonymity. So I'm not averse to zero knowledge proofs. If at some point we can have the use of smart contract wallets become essentially a black box that you can share your address with your friends, but they wouldn't know necessarily what's inside it, that would be great. However, I think, the nature of the blockchain, an open blockchain, it's just not very, it's like pseudo-anonymous, right? It's not actually anonymous. And I think right now, as a, this is simply because we deal with the old world, and because we probably think this is right altogether, we do have to do KYC and AML, and we're doing it the best we can. And I think that one of our goals as a company is to be super trustworthy on a KYC level. So where we want to get to is that within the crypto space, you can do KYC just with us, with TokenCard, which will also give you benefits, such as that if you ever lose your funds, there may be like social recovery recourses in the future version of the smart contracts. But we could also issue you a KYC token, which you could then use with other services that would require KYC, right? So let's say in the future you're going to a hotel and you don't want to give them your passport because right now every hotel basically gets your passports. You could instead just give them a KYC token, which is like from a recognized KYC provider, which could be TokenCard, and that the hotel then does zero knowledge proof on that, which says that indeed you are from this country. They don't necessarily know where specifically or how old you are, but they do know you're over 18, etc. So yeah, we live we still we're still half in the old world, or probably like 90% the truth.
Is that a big pushback you had from regulators? So obviously that you just described the benefits.
Yeah.
But obviously the negatives are that everything I've ever spent is traceable, whereas it's probably a little bit more difficult with the bank, and it's even impossible with cash. So I think is that kind of a conversation you're having with regulators, or is that not?
I mean, it's no. So the main thing we're doing right now is we're just we're making sure that funds that are coming into the wallets, even though we have no ability to access them or freeze them or anything like that, we can, because it's all public, we can see if it's coming from like a darknet market or some mix of this kind of stuff. That's the only thing we do right now, and that's part of our agreement with Visa, with our program manager, that we're doing AML, essentially. Yeah. So, yeah. We can talk about this more if you're interested.
Yeah, I'm happy to take that forward.
Yeah. Compliance officer over there.
Always happy to talk about this.
So I think I understand how TKM gives value to what today would be counted as shareholders, which is as well.
Yeah.
Awesome. Going forward 5 years, this really seems to have wondered. How does TokenCard the company? What do you see it as? How will it be supporting itself? And you mentioned about curation and about all these teams people doing stuff, but how does that work? So,
without going into too much sensitive detail about our commercial plan, there is a possibility that TKN itself, right, the TKN that the company holds, is enough to support the operation of the company. So that's like the ideal situation. Yeah, another interesting point about all of that, which you didn't necessarily ask, but I kind of forgot to mention. So the good thing about TKN is that we can have every user, if they're using our platform, we can have them be co-invested essentially in the success of our platform, and that's quite amazing, right? That's something a regular bank or a challenger bank would have a much harder time with. Even if it's just a bit, it all gets us on the same page. So, yeah. Any other questions?
I mean, there was one in the back. You did before.
What has to happen, in your opinion, for mainstream adoption? You were saying in the next 5 to 10 years will reverse. Like, what has to happen in your opinion, for cryptos?
In Europe.
Or in world? No.
In my opinion, sorry.
No, in your opinion, yeah.
So what has to happen for mainstream adoption? Well, I mean, obviously I would say our products. I think
more like technologically.
Yeah, great question. So look, I think the industry to date has hasn't actually done very much useful stuff. So So the prior to Ethereum coming out, almost everything that existed was a mutation of Bitcoin, right? And Bitcoin, I love Bitcoin, but it was an arbitrary unit of value, and it really had quite limited functionality and possibility. And only really, so after Ethereum went live, it slowly started with Digix and Maker coming up with new stuff that you couldn't do prior to Ethereum's existence. And only in the last 2 years has the rest of the world really caught up with Ethereum's existence. Only now are companies, projects starting to develop applications on top of Ethereum that go far outside of just being able to do peer-to-peer transactions. And I think as these platforms mature, ours is literally maturing as we speak right now, at least to the degree that we're live. We will start to see applications that will directly compete with old world counterparts, and because they won't have the fact that they'll be decentralized and that they'll operate autonomously will simply mean that they'll be able to undercut any counterpart that has hundreds of employees. Yeah. So I think we're getting there. I think 5 years from today, for sure, there'll be a host of applications that will actually mean that you'll think twice about going to an old world counterpart rather than one from the Ethereum space. And chances are, very likely actually, that the one on Ethereum will allow you to do stuff that you couldn't even do with the old version. Just like how 5 years from today, if you're choosing between Monzo, assuming they don't go Ethereum as well, which is very likely, and us, right? There'll be so much stuff on our platform that you could never do with Monzo, and that's what we're trying to focus on internally. We're trying to build rather than like go the very obvious routes, all the stuff that all the other cards are doing. We're going to do that too, but we really are internally trying to think consciously, what can we build that we can only do because we are a self-sovereign banking experience on Ethereum, And there's a bunch of stuff which I'm not going to reveal here, but yeah. So okay, now I'll let Misha talk because I've been up for very long.
Come find Mel afterwards and we're downstairs with drinks.